Hey everybody, Daryl and Holly and Harley with Exquisite Exotics here. So today's video we're going to go over genetics. So a lot of people ask about questions about genetics, so I know there's a ton of videos already out there, but I thought we'd do one that way we can point people who ask us to our videos. So what I'm going to start with is a disclaimer. That being that what we use in the community, in the ball python community we'll say, doesn't necessarily always drive with what they use in the scientific community. I'm ignoring that today. Sometimes you may hear things like, for example, a codom gene is really just an incomplete dominant gene. Well, I'm going to try to simplify things for people just starting out in the hobby. So this is a 101 class. If you're looking to get into debate about terms and stuff, this isn't the video for you. I'm just being 100% honest. This is going to be simplified and something, hopefully, I try to explain things in ways that everybody can understand, and rather than muddy the water with a whole bunch of debate, I'd rather just kind of go, this is going to cover most of what you need to know. And then once they've learned the ropes, if they want to debate different topics, that's fantastic. But I want to get people started with something. So this is Genetics 101 with a simplified version of genetics, not going into all the detailed discussions of what is or isn't or scientific discrepancies. And we'll save that for discussions in person rather than on a video. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so to try to make things as clear to be able to see on the screen, we try to zoom in as much as possible. I promise we're here. It's not fake. See, here's my hand. Holly's standing on the other side. She's probably going to write stuff in. We may need to adjust the camera as we go. So there's three categories that we're going to put genes into. They're either dominant genes, they're codominant genes, or they're recessive genes. We have some examples. So a dominant gene would be pinstripe. A codominant gene, for example, would be fire. And a recessive gene, for example, is albino. So those are the three genes we're going to use. For future videos, I plan on doing like a Genetics 102, maybe even a 103 class where we really deep dive into stuff. We'll use these same genetics throughout all of them. So a dominant gene. What that means is that the gene doesn't have a super form. So we're gonna kind of skip back to it because I want to go to codoms here. So codom, for example, there's a super form of. So fire. A super fire, if you look it up, a good place to look up different genetics is worldofballpythons.com. A super fire is an all-white snake, whereas a regular fire is just a slightly lighter version of a normal, basically. So when you have a codom gene, that means that if you breed two animals together that both carry the gene, there can be a super form of that gene. In this case, it would be a super fire. There's lots of genes that have that. A dominant doesn't have that. If you breed two pinstripes together, there's no such thing as a super pinstripe. Okay? So the difference really between a dominant and a codom is whether or not there's a super form of the gene. We'll talk about passing genetics on to babies later, but just keep in mind, a dominant, if you breed two pinstripes, you'll never get a super pinstripe. But a codom, if you breed two fires, you can get a super fire. Okay? So there's your difference between a dominant gene and a codominant gene. And again, we'll come back to breeding those genes and what happens later, but I just want you to understand the different terminology. A recessive gene, like albino, again, I'm going to try to make this as clear as possible. Some people would call it, works like a codom, but I just want to make this simple. A recessive gene is a gene that both parents carry, but it may not be visual. So we're going to go back to a codom here, right? So fire, if the parents carry fire, you're going to see it in both parents. With a recessive, both parents could carry the recessive gene and you not see it. And what that means is that we have things that we call in the hobby hets. So I'm going to let Holly write in here, het albino. My Vanna White.
Please excuse the not bad handwriting, but the wonky handwriting.
That's all right.
I'm writing sideways.
What a het albino is it's an animal that carries the albino gene, but you don't see it visually. So recessives allow you to have animals that carry a gene, but you have no visual indicator that it's carrying a gene, unlike the codom versions. There are percentages assigned with hets too. That's going to be in a later genetics class. You may see like 66% het something. All I'm going to cover right now on percentages is understand that the percentage is the chance that it is a het. Every animal either is or is not. There is only two possibilities. It is het or it isn't het. When you see a percentage, that's the chance the person thinks that that animal is a het. But it does not, the percentage has, say zero. I'm going to use the word zero for now, but we'll cover it later in a further genetics class. The percentage you see has zero impact on the number of babies that will come out showing that recessive gene. It's just a percentage chance that it is or is not a het. So keep that in mind. When you're buying an animal and it says 50% het albino, for example, it either is albino or it isn't albino, and you have a 50% chance, so a 50-50 shot on whether it is or is not het albino. Hopefully that's clear. If not, put it down in the comments, and we can cover that a little more in one of the further genetics genes. So, again, to reiterate, dominant, you're going to see it, and if you breed two together, there is no superform. Codom, you're going to see it, and if you breed two together, there is a superform. Recessive, if it's a het, you're not going to see it. And if you breed two together, you could get a visual. Or you could breed visuals together of it. So you can have a visual recessive. And you breed two together and you can get visuals as well. So the recessive is probably the most complicated for people to understand. There are het versions where it's not visual, and then there's the actual visual version in albino. And we'll get into how the visuals versus non-visuals play together in the next genetics video. So I want to kind of save that for the 102, because I think the thing that people get hung up on most is, of the three, is probably recessive. So I want to kind of spend a whole video going over how recessive works, the percentages, what they mean. And then probably we'll do a video afterwards on how I do my pundit squares. I do them slightly different than other people do. I do them in a way that simplifies, at least I believe, simplifies the pundit square. It actually helped Holly understand pundit squares a little better. It's not the way that you would see it done in like a biology class, though I did do them in biology class. It's not the same way. It's a way that makes them a little easier to understand for the average person. I don't make squares. I make more rectangles out of pundit squares. So, but that's for a further class. So just the beginning here, I just want you to understand dominant, codoms, and recessives, and what those terms mean, because we'll need that in the further videos in this class, or in this series. So Genetics 101, I think that covers everything. We covered the dominant, codoms, recessive. Again, recessive, I know I don't have it written here. Maybe I will add it right here underneath. Holly, I want to add little higher up because we're running out of space. Oh. Try to keep it close.
See? Okay, yeah. What am I writing?
Just put visual. So, yep.
You can see that.
There we go. So, dominants, they either have it or they don't. Codominants, they have it or they don't. If both parents do have it, you can get a super form of it. And recessive, you kind of have two versions in adults. You either have it being a het, which means it's not visual, but it carries the gene, or you can have a visual. So in this case, a visual albino. So that's it. That's kind of the 101, the basics. I want you to understand the terminology. In the next video, we'll get further digging into recessive genes and how they work, because I think everybody should be pretty clear on how a dominant gene works. And codoms are very simple too, with just the ability to create a super form of that. But recessives, I think, where people get hung up the most. So we'll dig deep into recessives in the next video. All right, so in conclusion, we wanted to just kind of throw out what we were talking about with recessives. I'm sure most of you know, but again, this is a beginner video, so, here's, that visual albino we talked about. Hopefully she'll pick up on camera there. And Holly has...
one of her babies.
Yeah, which is... Just get a little closer camera.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So that's a het albino. It's het other stuff too, but het albino. So you can see it looks normal, but it carries the albino gene. So Just a quick recap on the recessive stuff. So hopefully if you're a beginner, you found this helpful. If you're, into ball pythons for a while, you already understand this stuff. So I'm sure this video was, not that useful to you. But as a beginner, if you're just getting started, this is the kind of information you're looking to learn. So hopefully if you're a beginner, this helped. If so, please comment down below. If I see enough interest in this stuff, I'll go ahead and do the next video. If nobody's interested in it, of course, why do another video? So if you liked it, comment below. If you're watching this for the first time and you don't know about what we do, we actually put all of our animals for sale on YouTube first. You get them for a week before they go for sale on Morph Market, and if you buy them in that first week, you get 10% off. So if you're at this video and you've never watched one of our videos before, please go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know when our new videos come out, so you know when we have animals going for sale. I'm going through this really quick, talking really fast. Thank you all. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.